Hello everyone, my name is Leona Fawl and welcome to episode 5 in our webinar series. I'm joined today by Employment Service Manager Colette McInerney from Turas Nua and Project Manager Erin Whittle from FRS Recruitment. Both will give a brief introduction before we start today's webinar on how we can provide support and advice for people wanting to change careers. Quickly, just a bit of a background on FRS and myself. FRS started as an agricultural co-op in 1980. And since then, we have grown into a highly specialised cooperative recruitment company. I myself have worked in recruitment now for nearly 20 years and support FRS with that commercial division nationally. Colette, would you like to give yourself a brief introduction?
Yeah, basically, I work for Turas Nua, which is part of the FRS group. And we are the welfare to work provider for the Department of Employment and Social Protection. So our role really is to deliver job path. So we work with the unemployed and supporting them back into the workplace. So there's about 300 people in the Turas Nua division all across the country, across many offices and remotely at the moment, which is great. Myself, I have worked in HR and recruitment and have been self-employed as well. So worked maybe 25, 30 years in that area and last 5 years with Turas Nua.
Brilliant, thanks Colette. Erin.
Hi, I'm Erin Whittle. I work for FRS Recruitment in a project manager role, and I've actually been working within, I guess, the HR and recruitment industry for over 20 years myself, and have worked in various roles. So I'd like to say I have, I guess, reinvented and changed my career over that time. Really looking forward to today's discussion.
Great. Okay, let's kickstart it. Colette, what advice would you give to someone who's recently been furloughed? And if maybe you wouldn't mind explaining that word, because some of us might be just hearing it today for the first time.
Yeah, I suppose, isn't it a strange word? I mean, yes. It's a word that's come to us over the past 10, 12 weeks, and I hadn't heard of it before then. I mean, I was through the last recession and unemployed, and we didn't have that word furloughed. Then you were either out of work or you were in work. So basically, I suppose, for a lot of people out there now, that whole notion of furloughed comes with, can be determined by fear and can bring a lot of uncertainty to them. So I suppose there's a few things you can kind of look at in determining, where you're going and what you're doing. But it's down to your own personal choice, really, as well, at the end of the day. So whether you hang on in your current role and wait to go back to work, or you start looking for other options. It really is your personal choice, but there's a few things that you really do need to consider, and they're practical things. Can you afford to wait? Yeah. The money you are on now may not be, may limit you in terms of you might be more exposed now to risk. The supports that you have are inadequate really to meet your needs, and basically you might say, is it a good time to move on? Do you wait? So, it's time to kind of reevaluate where the future is for you. Is this a time for something new? Is this the job I love and I want to continue in it and I want to grow it? So do I use that as an opportunity? I suppose the time we've been given really has left us to make lifestyle decisions, because other opportunities have been given to us throughout this, so we should use that.
Very good point.
I suppose another point, will I actually gain by a change at this point? Is the grass greener at the other side? Am I taking a risk? Can I afford that risk? Does my personal situation allow for that? So you really need to examine the trade-offs and look at your own personal situation. But it's a time for thinking, and it's a time for reassessing, and it's time for reimagining your career going forward. And even looking at opportunities, if you do go back in your current role and you are out at the moment, maybe some of those things that you might like to bring to your career, maybe that you can get them in your current career. So maybe talk to your manager and don't make any rash decisions without covering off all the eventualities.
Yeah, reflection is key at this point.
Yeah. So I'd say consider all your options.
Great.
And I'd completely agree with you, Colette. I think you made some really good points, and I think it's just a really good time, I think, at the moment, though, for people to sit back and just reflect on, what's important to them in terms of their own personal circumstances and their career as well. So, would absolutely agree with you.
And I suppose after all that reflection and time to think, I mean, what advice would you give someone when they're starting to look? Where do they start? What do they do?
Oh, well, I suppose, when you're in this situation and when you are in a transition mode, there's a lot of stuff going on in your head, and without giving advice to anyone, but you need to think the best way of dealing with that stuff that's going on in your head. And I remember I worked with a coach on an assignment on an outplacement work some years ago, and I thought he gave some really good advice to people that were recently made redundant. And he advised them, get this information out of your head, write it down, because now you have more space in there to think clear paths for yourself. And, I never stop giving that advice going forward to anyone I meet that, is looking. Things look a lot clearer down on paper. So, that's a good starting point. So maybe, reflect on your strengths from a skills perspective. What are your strengths? What are your key competencies? Maybe do a SWOT analysis on yourself. How long is it since you did that? Maybe
too long.
Might be a bit shocking for some of us to try it, but it's a good thing to do, and it kind of brings you back to reality. In your head now you're actually dealing with it, which is a good thing, and you're moving forward having written something down. Seek advice. Go to the likes of you guys in FRS, the recruitment consultants. Take the advice of a mentor or a coach, and it's always good to have a mentor, maybe someone from your past or your past work, or even a colleague in a different department and stuff. It's good to get good rounded experience or good rounded input into any decisions you make. There's also free services there from the Department of Employment and Social Protection. They have good services there to help you out with CVs and stuff like that. And I know Leona as well. That's something you certainly would work with on the recruitment side.
Recruitment front, yeah.
So what would I say? Maybe don't limit yourself. Be open.
That's very important.
Yeah, I think HR people, and I haven't worked at the other side of the desk in terms of interviewing people and hiring people. I think HR are very open to taking
transferable skills as well.
Transferable skills, yes, and even identifying those transferable skills. They're not afraid to train you. If you bring the right attitude and frame of mind to the workplace, there is opportunity. I suppose the biggest thing going forward is, there will be a number of people out of work. So it isn't going to be as easy as it was before Christmas in terms of looking for a new job. So where to look? Using the job boards, referrals. A lot of HR people, 85% of HR people apparently hiring through referrals as well. So, it's not a bad way to look. Yeah. Jobs board and LinkedIn, Leona, I know that's probably something you're very au fait with there.
Yeah, I think it's kind of looking at, Erin, you might probably agree, I think it's touching onto your networks, I suppose. How can you use your networks to support your search once you've gotten there? And I think it's something that we kind of take for granted. We can have personal networks, we can have professional networks. I mean, Erin, what would you think? How would you utilize those networks to get to the next step? Yeah,
and I think sometimes it's also about just even looking at even getting your head around, I guess, all of the different jobs that exist or that are out there. So I think it's just reflecting back on maybe jobs that have interested you in the past, or maybe it was back to your youth, even when you were in school, the things that you wanted to do. Just write a list of all of those interests and those jobs, but also do your research. So that's where I think LinkedIn comes in really, really useful. So LinkedIn, if you're not on LinkedIn, definitely get on LinkedIn. And a good place to start is just adding any sort of family and friends, and then looking at your previous colleagues or maybe people you've gone to school with, that type of thing. That's a really good way to start building your network. But it's also a good way to research the types of roles that exist. The same with the job boards. So just having a look on all of the job boards and seeing what some of the kind of more common jobs are, and seeing what skills those job ads are, I guess, specifying, and seeing what you've got, and just write a list of all of those. And I guess then what you can then do with LinkedIn is see how people have progressed their career to those different roles. So you can then sort of say, well, that's where I want to go. How do I get there? And that's, I think, where LinkedIn can really help in terms of that. And I think, having that network, the network is
critical. It's crucial. It's also important as well with LinkedIn as well, when you, obviously with your peers and your families and your friends, the groups on LinkedIn, follow an industry in a sector. If you're looking to change sector, what's going on in that sector, what's going on in that industry, like them, follow them, comment on them. Just become a knowledge expert in the area that you're trying to break into. It's very, very important. And don't forget alumni groups as well. People have now HR people are actually recruiting through alumni groups. People who have left a company before, where your culture and values marry that company, will go back first. So all these little small things that we take for granted are actually at our fingertips through platforms like LinkedIn. So it's good to throw yourself into it and spend some time on it.
And it's like what you said, Colette, as well. I think the referrals are so important. So your network, can really help you to get your foot in the door in certain companies as well. It's really invaluable.
Absolutely. And LinkedIn, I think it's useful as well for people, like if you are thinking about moving a different role or thinking about, I wonder about that job. It's often interesting to look at other people's profiles just to see what they do and what background and what training that they went through in order to be where they are.
Where they are.
So it's really a good research tool, the whole LinkedIn. So
And moving on from networks, ladies, I mean, what do we feel about volunteering and work experience and making that step to change careers?
Okay, so, I suppose volunteering is always perceived as a good thing. You have that on your CV. It's your social responsibility to be involved in these types of things, and so it always gives the HR person an insight into your character and the depth of the person as well. I suppose it gives you experience, perhaps in areas that you didn't have before, which can be a good thing, especially if it's earlier on in your career. And you do find you have a gap between jobs or something like that, and it's a good way to fill in and try and get that experience. I'd emphasize, use it as a stepping stone to build a skill, to get yourself into gainful employment, because I do feel people need to be moving forward. And so getting the skills in different areas that you need, yes, volunteering can be very helpful. I suppose you could also, you'll be growing your network, you'll be widening your net of people that you know, and you can never know enough people. There's always someone that may be the ideal link to whatever you want to do in the future. So it's always a good thing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be I would agree with you as well, just on having that sort of that continuous work experience. I think is really important, as in my experience as a recruiter, and also working in HR, it is good to have that continuous employment if you can on your CV. So even if there is a little bit of maybe voluntary work or what have you, I think it really does help, and it just shows that you're keen to work and keen to be employed. The other kind of piece that I wanted to bring up would also be about, if you are working and you do have the opportunity, you're looking at maybe moving into a different department or different team, you could also maybe talk to your manager about, the option of maybe, can I do an hour a week just to get to know what it's like? If you're looking to move into finance, could I sit with the finance team and just get a feel for what they do? And then also you're seeing, is it something that you'd like to commit to longer term or pursue? But they're also getting the opportunity to see you. So it's a really good way, I think, if you do have that opportunity in your existing company, put your hand up, have a chat with your manager, or potentially HR. And the same with secondments. Secondments are great if there are short-term opportunities for you to move into a different department or a project. I think that's a really great way of experiencing new things.
And I guess the other thing as well. Sorry,
just as obviously in projects, I think that would be another really big thing. If there are project opportunities, get involved if you can. If you've got the time, if you've got the capacity, put your hand up and offer to maybe get involved in projects as well.
Yeah. And I think it's very important to understand what you are good at, understanding your core competencies, because people, if you are employed and you're starting to consider a change of career, if you are happy with as we're going back to the company values, they say now research tells us that people are attached to an employer by the culture and the fit and the values of that company. So if you are valued by the employer, they'll want to keep you in any capacity. So internal secondments, as Erin touched on, putting your head up, there's certain periods of time in all of our roles where we may be busier and quieter. Put that as an opportunity to maybe suggest to HR an internal program, like a movers and shakers, a week in the life of a finance manager, or the week in the life of that will just build your profile higher within that company to make you more valued as an employee.
And there's one kind of element out there at the moment, it's kind of crafting your own job. How you can be useful within your own organization and using your own real skills to benefit the organization, and that's how you build true value through it. So it's those sort of things you need to keep in mind going forward, to reach contentment in whatever role it is that you get to in the end.
I had a sorry.
Just on the we don't need to kind of miss out just on the importance of your CV and the importance of getting interview practice and the different types of assessments that might be out there now. You might have some input there.
Yeah, no, I think what we're looking at the moment, there's loads of, and that's leading on to another question where someone's been asked us there on training. Should people train and upskill, and what assessments are needed to move about within the company, within the organization? So do we feel that we always need to be retraining and upskilling if you want to move and progress?
I do think we do need to be continually upskilling and retraining. I think no matter what job you're in, things are changing, things are moving, technology changes, everything changes, and you can't become stagnant in your career. You have to build it, and you can only build it through building yourself. And so that's a more positive thing to do. And there is so much out there at the moment in terms of training. It's a really good time to think about, having done your SWOT analysis of yourself, there are opportunities in there that you can build on and say, okay, so what training could I do now? And maybe it actually won't come at a cost to you. There's a few really good things through SkillsNet. There's been really, really good programs going at the moment. I know from the Midwest, SkillsNet is a really good group, and even SkillsNet all around the country. So skillsnet.ie, I certainly would log on to that if anyone's out there looking. There's Springboard. Springboard's outstanding. It offers free higher education from level 6 to 9 for people across a whole range of areas. It'll be starting again now in the autumn. And, it wasn't always free to people that were working. It sometimes was free to, but now it's open. So a really good place to look. InnoPharma is a great training opportunity out there for people that are maybe transferring out of another industry into the pharma and medical device. And they have some really bespoke programs with regards to those medical device and pharma companies, and the entry level from those programs is very high. So again, InnoPharma, definitely a place to go to have a look. And then I suppose, FRS training itself, Erin, you might have a few comments to make on the training services that they do. There is some really good, solid training with FRS as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's there's also potentially, like, if you are employed and looking to upskill, it's certainly worth having that conversation as well, once again with your manager, and talking about what your career aspirations are, and working on a plan with your managers. There could be training available internally that you're not aware of, or there could be demand from several people within the company, where then HR and training may then look at running some internal training on a particular topic. So I think that's a sort of another sort of angle to take with the training. But I would say for people looking to transfer completely or change careers, it's not also necessary to do a course or a degree or a master's or anything really. Look, it depends on what it is. Obviously, if you're looking to become a nurse, you would need to do certain qualifications. But I don't think it is something that you definitely need to do, but I know it can certainly give people a lot of confidence. So I have seen people that have successfully transitioned and changed careers, but without that training behind them, I don't think they would have been as confident to progress and to move. And I think it certainly helps on your sort of CV and sort of getting your foot in the door.
Absolutely, and it's actually easier now where the way things have changed, because so many courses have transferred online. So the options, there's a lot more options for people. It's absolutely wonderful. The ETB and the Fetch courses as well, we can't forget those. I mean, there's some very solid programs in there. So there's loads. So worth having a look.
Yeah, and I guess I can touch on just from. I didn't mean to kind of avoid your question there on FRS training, but I'll cover off just. We do cover a fairly broad spectrum within the FRS training business. So we do quite a lot in the health and safety space in terms of health and safety training, and quite a lot as well sort of in the agri space. So chainsaw and forestry, healthcare, PHECC, the food side of agri as well, horticulture, and then we also do some of around sort of construction, the employability skills training, and there is a fair bit that we do within the soft skills and leadership as well. So what we'll do afterwards is we'll send over the links to these relevant training courses and some of the grants. I think there's some grants available as well to individuals. So we'll send that around afterwards for everyone.
No. I know we have been talking an awful lot about training, work experience, voluntary work, etc. But how important do you think it is? And I think it is sometimes can be greatly overlooked because we focus so much on soft skills and transferable skills. How important is mindset when you're looking at if you have been, due to COVID, are not working at the moment, or looking at, have been in a role for 20 years and now that daunting starting point again, I wanted something different. How important is mindset in that process?
Well, I suppose, Leona, staying positive isn't always easy, especially.
We've all been challenged over the past couple of weeks.
We're keeping going. But, I think we need to keep talking to ourselves. We need to keep talking our story up. I remember myself during the last recession, and it was a bit more scary back then because, the same supports weren't around. I had to close my business at the time, which was not a nice thing to do. And looking back, the one thing that kept me going was, I didn't see myself as a failure. I think if I hadn't tried doing that business and always said, oh, only if, but I had tried it, okay, it wasn't my fault at the end of the day that this happened. So you kind of need to fail forward and move on. So you've got to keep that mindset, that growth mindset going the whole time. I suppose from that, I learned a lot of lessons, and I had to do a lot of soul searching in terms of, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? What am I going to do in the next 20 years? Am I ever going to work again? These were all the scary things that were going through my head. But one day you have to stand back, and I had a good conversation with a friend of mine, Margaret, and we were laughing, saying, are we ever going to work again? But you know what? The decision was to get back to work, no matter what level. And one of the things I found was, you might have to step back to step up. So don't be afraid of that.
There's no stepping back if you're learning something. No,
and it worked for me. And you come back up quicker the second time around. You won't have to climb the same ladder. So just don't be afraid of taking that move. I suppose finally, I was reading recently an article by Sheryl Sandberg. She's COO of Facebook. But she kind of made a very good comment, ask yourself how you can improve and what you're afraid to do. And she wrote by adding that's the thing you should be doing.
Yeah.
To do, okay? The thing that you're afraid to do. So it's kind of push yourself out there. You will do it. You can do it. Stay positive. Stay telling the positive stories to yourself, and things will always change and get better,
And I think that's something that employers look at. Resilience is key in staff because no one knows what's around the corner, and we're all living through that right now at the moment. And how we react to challenges is something that, although hands-on experience in the job that you're doing is, of course, from a competency point of view, very important, but it's how you face challenges as an employer. I think that's such an attractive quality in an employee. Erin, what do you think?
I just think on mindset, it's so critical. And I think if you are, you are looking at, changing careers and maybe you are applying for different roles, you will get knockbacks. You need to be prepared for that. I think it can be sometimes a little bit more challenging for people when they don't have maybe as much experience as someone who has been working in that area. So you just need to be prepared for that. So I guess it's about that resilience and just having that resilience and being confident in your approach. I think we've got a few questions there.
I know. I'm just looking at one, Erin. I was going to rudely interrupt you because it's quite relevant to what you're talking about at the moment. I have a master's degree in finance and want to change careers. And I was working IT previously for 2 years. How can I highlight the strengths, skills in the resume to let HR know I'm fit for the job without previous experience in the same field? Now, as recruiters, we get that a lot. I'll open it up to the floor before I give my 2 cents. Has anyone got any insights on how this transition could happen?
I'll leave with you, Leona.
Okay. For me, I do think your first barrier is always HR will always look at a CV as a piece of paper. Now, it's very hard, and there's no intent behind it. But I suppose when you're deciphering and filtering through lots of applications, which every employer now is getting crazy amount of applications for every one role, so it really is it's an employer dream because the candidate market is so buoyant at the moment. You just have to set your differences from, outside the box, think differently. There's a few quick tips that when I'm talking to my guys, how we can tailor CVs to make them stand out from a HR point of view. Color of text, what excites the brain more for you to stand out amongst 100 CVs. I mean, as another question which relates to this one as well, if you can get on the phone with HR to get your phone interview or your Zoom or your Skype interview to bring out your personality, that's the step one. You do that by tailoring your CV to the company, understanding where the company is at, and again, look at external factors. What's the company going through? In your cover letter, link something to the company so you've done your research. Now, it doesn't always work because sometimes corporate, large organizations especially, do not move outside the box. If they need everything ticked, it has to be ticked, and that's just their company ethos. And that's something where Erin touched on. You have to be set for some form of rejection. But small organizations will look at transferable skills, will look at life experiences, will look at other external factors a little bit more favorably. And if you're looking to do a big change, they're the companies that you need to be looking for, not the top 5, not the Googles, not the Facebooks, who won't, from a policy point of view, can't change the recruitment process.
Or you could start at if that's your target company, then maybe a slightly more junior role.
Get the experience and then work your way up. And that's probably how I'd say you navigate around it. But there is, again, partner with an agency. FRS's guys are very well trained to get your CV to stand out as much as possible. We profile you, we profile your soft skills and your hard skills. So don't send your CV off to 101 agencies. Partner with one, get them to know you inside and out, and they know their clients inside and out, so they're better able to make a match than you can. That would be my advice on the process.
I think the CV is so important, like the keywords as well. So if you look at the job ad, if you can highlight as many of the sort of the requirements from what's in the actual job ad on your CV, a lot of it can be around sort of the keywords that come up as well. So I think that's really important. I know if you might not tick all of the boxes, but if you can highlight the boxes that you do tick and make that really clear. And I think the LinkedIn piece, the networking. So if it's through an agency, pick up the phone, have a chat with the recruiter, and talk to them about the opportunity as well. I think it's always really good to pick up the phone and have a conversation with the manager or the person hiring the role.
In your CV as well, things that are generic across different jobs in terms of, companies are interested in people that can achieve numbers and achieve project goals and achieve targets, and keep those very much to the forefront in your CV, because once you've achieved it in one setting, you're telling the story to whoever's hiring that you can achieve this in another setting. And companies are quite open to perhaps looking at people from a different industry, because they're going to bring some new ideas and new stuff to the new role, which is something that they're looking for. So I wouldn't be scared away.
Yeah.
And another question is, would you recommend temporary roles to get your foot in the door and to see if you enjoy the role before committing to a career change? Now, I think we'd kind of discussed that a little bit as well. If you can get the experience with your current job, go for it. It's all about what you want and where you need to go. So understanding what you're good at, your capabilities. If you're out of work, would I recommend a temporary role? Of course. You're not losing out. You're learning all the time. So once you're moving forward and not moving backwards, the sky's the limit, because I don't think till you're in a role will you really actually understand the role. And it's going back to the company and their mindset. A HR role with FRS Recruitment could be very different to a HR role with another company. So it's about understanding the company, where you want to go, and how you can do that. But for me, I would always recommend temporary, because you have the experience to go to where you need to go.
And it's an acceptance of that fact as well going forward. Temporary may be the way a lot of companies will go, given the uncertainty you're going to have the next 6-8 months. So it could become a bit of a norm. So definitely embrace it, go forward, and say, as long as you're going forward, you're getting experience and you're meeting new people, and it's only good.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of temps that have gone permanent as well, or who have become long-term temps. And I think, like as you've both said, it's a great opportunity for you to also kind of test out the new role, try out the company. Is this the sort of place where I'd like to stay? But you also then get to prove yourself as well. So temping is a great option for sure.
And then again, it's about partnering with your recruiter, because an awful lot of, as the market, as you've seen now, if people are looking at job boards, due to financial restraints currently, roles are being advertised as temporary roles. But the recruiter may know that company well and know that they have a very stable permanent workforce. So in 6 to 12 months time, when the economy gets back to where we were pre-COVID, that role will go permanent. So don't ever say no to an advert where you haven't had a human connection, because the human will tell you way more than the words in the advert. So, and that's very, very important.
And you can use it to your advantage as well. I mean, if you're temporary, you have no direct ties with that company, so you can get the next really good opportunity that's out there.
Absolutely. I think what Miriam's made a good point there as well, just around LinkedIn. Probably something that we didn't sort of bring up before when we were talking about LinkedIn, but it's, by having the right kind of keywords and skills, you will potentially come up then in recruiters are constantly searching LinkedIn for candidates. So I think, that would certainly, I think, help you if you do have, was it the master's not that one, sorry, it was the other one, the question there. But if you've got certain skills and you've done a certain course, or there's a type of industry that you're wanting to get into, you could certainly put that into your LinkedIn profile, your summary about what you're looking for, and then those keywords will come up. So if you're wanting to get into a role in IT, put in all of those relevant IT keywords into your profile on LinkedIn. And it will certainly help with the searches that the recruiters are performing.
Now, I know we're slightly going over time, but I think it's always important to have a roundup, and any questions that haven't been answered, I'm happy to go back and answer them after this to the individuals. But final tips, guys. What's your take home for the people who are listening today on your top tip to be able to, either in a role, to transfer to a role, your dream job, or if you're out of work, to get back into work?
I'd say, take the time to really invest it in yourself, in terms of going forward. You want to build the right route, that this is I'm going my dream job way. So keep the big circle going in terms of where my dream job is going to be, but keep your career goals tied in for the next 12 to 18 months, and build a career, a different, or a number of paths through that, and build different versions of yourself in terms of the careers that you want to go. Have 4 or 5 different versions of you that avenues that you could take, and develop the skills and the CVs around that. And then you're really widening your options. And at the end of the day, that circle is only widening, and hopefully at the end of the day, you'll get to the grey area now, which is the dream job, which will be your reality later on.
Great. Erin?
Yeah, I think it's just sort of doing that research is really important to really sort of build out that plan and that goal, and then I think we've touched a lot on networking, but I think it is really very critical, whether it's, as we said, sort of networking with even just with your family and friends, with your previous colleagues, or on LinkedIn and networking with recruiters and other industry contacts. But I think it's really very important.
And for me, I think COVID has forced us all to live in the now, not live in the future. We're always used to planning ahead, and now we just plan for today. So I think for people who have who are out of work at the moment, I think live in the now. If experience comes your way, jump on board, take it, and resilience is key. Guys, thank you all for listening today. I hope you got some value from it, and I'm sure this recording will be available for people who've missed it.
And we will send around a message afterwards as well, so with all of our contact details and some more of those links from the relevant training courses, etc. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.